I wish I could say that my first exposure to hip hop and rap was conscious and revolutionary stuff like Public Enemy, Low Key, Immortal Technique, Welfare Poets, Soul, Brother Ali, and Dead Prez. But if I did, I would be lying.
Only make cars, this is for the colonizers, turn bomb providers, take this beef all the way back to Oppenheimer. They call it warfare, but your wars aren't fair. Crazy motherfucker named Ice Cube from the gang called niggas with attitudes.
My first exposure, although with some exceptions like NWA's tracks that showcase a grim, urban, violent reality, with healthy amount of hate for the police and some hopeful and poetic messages, covert or overt, within verses in Bone Thugs and Harmony songs.
Gotta get on the grind, giving it up to the 9-9. If you still can jump, it fall in the night time. Gotta get mine. Hey, taking a shot on the lounge and top of the phone. Call up my homie, tape at home, polishing this Mac.
But alas, the vast majority was Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Exhibit, DMX, Cypress Hill, and other acts, which I heard on Power 106, MTV, and the now extinct Vox Music channel back in the 90s during middle school and high school. But in my opinion, these acts didn't really offer that much depth or profundity. As for why I listened to hip-hop, maybe I listened to it because of my budding poetic and literary tendencies were coming to the surface. So naturally, I was attracted to music with a strong devotion to lyrical content, which is strange that I also gravitated toward punk, hardcore, like Crass, Suicidal Tendencies, Conflict, and Oz Rotten, and metal, musical genres that really don't make it easier to decipher the actual lyrics, let alone the meaning. Nonetheless, it was in high school that I, as a punker, used to hang out with underground hip-hop enthusiasts and heads. They told me about other groups and MCs, all of which were not found in the mainstream. It was from them that I was introduced to a more conscious and organic, less record label manufactured hip-hop through a hip-hop shop off of Ventura Boulevard in Sherman Oaks called The Basement. It was there that I found contemporary underground and local acts like Bus Driver, 2Mix, Dilated Peoples, Visionaries, Hieroglyphics, AWOL1, Jedi Mind Tricks, Psycho Realm, Abstract Rude, Freestyle Fellowship, Project Blowed, and many other local acts and crews, both past and present. It was in the 90s that I found myself at a time where I began writing poetry more consistently and consequentially listening to more overtly political music, specifically Rage Against the Machine, which infused many hip-hop beats, guitar, and vocal styling that could only be described as screaming rap.
Various things thrown at cars, school buses, RTD buses.
This was shortly after the Los Angeles Uprising, also known as the LA Riot.
A woman dragged from her car and ended up on the street, and then we saw the driver of that truck pulled out of his car.
2 million illegal immigrants in California.
Shortly after the uprising, California wasn't out of the clear just yet. 2 years later, then governor and closeted racist Pete Wilson put in his scopes undocumented immigrants as part of his gubernatorial electoral campaign and support for Proposition 187, known as the Save Our State Initiative, which should have read, Save Our White State from Black, Brown, and Yellow Immigrant People. But I guess the name was too long. It was in this atmosphere that my change in music took place.
Throw a Molotov cocktail at the precinct. You know how we think. Organize the hood under our ching banners. Red, black, and green instead of gang bandanas.
Hip-hop for me, for someone that identifies as being part of a post-hip-hop generation, was the daring, unapologetic, and radical tendency of revolutionary hip-hop, such as Dead Prez, Siwatse, Olmeca, and Immortal Technique.
Rather the terminology real hip-hop thrown around. I think for a lot of people, it's come to symbolize, an organic sound, not something that's contrived in its fashion. And by contrived, for people who don't understand what that means, when executives or individuals come and sit down with an artist, sometimes the A&R or the producer will give them advice and say, hey, listen, we need a quote-unquote track for the bitches, or we need something for the streets, or, no mention of what this actually does to people, no mention of what negative reinforcements and stereotypes, because black people and Latino people can be used as racist stereotypes for their own people.
This approach to hip-hop I found is more authentic, more real, more organic, more truthful, more necessary, more in harmony with the rhythm of my own angry soul. At the very least, this spoke directly to me. The revolutionary interpretation of hip-hop showed that the music and its culture can be used as a vehicle of radical change, as all art in all mediums should be utilized. As East Los Angeles revolutionary urban indigenous MC Siwatse said during an interview, hip-hop was giving voice to the voiceless.
Once again on the microphone, the double X chromosome took to hit you hard with an overdose of estrogen.
Well, that's basically why I write, so I understand this.
So turn it up, 'cause I bring a raw theory of a woman overwhelming Terry.
Hip-hop has been a companion to me, someone that I have traveled with since an early age. It has been with me during lonely nights sitting in my room penning a poem about the local cholos throwing oranges at me for wearing the punk band Bad Religion's crossed out Christian cross on a shirt. It has been there during skating the half-pipe behind the porn shop in Van Nuys, where older punkers and metalheads fed our underage heads with blast beats, shredding guitars, and satanic verse and beer. Hip-hop has seen me mature into a more established and published writer, currently engaged in literary expressionism. And it's going to be this way for a long time, with hip-hop by my side as a complicit companion.
Don't riot, the controlled demolition of rage is far worse than a riot. Being at a rally with a chief of police, it ain't my definition of no justice, no peace. After all the God talk, they passed around a trash bag, collecting money for a civil suit, even though there's a mile-long line of pro bono lawyers trying to do the jury. Something reeks in the mile high city, got co-opted by police in the mile